Dive. Today we're going to tackle this massive central tension in modern science.
Right.
On one hand, you have the climate crisis, which is becoming this terrifyingly quantified reality. And on the other, you have this just dizzying pace of breakthroughs in AI and biotech.
And these breakthroughs are offering tools that are, well, they might be the only tools powerful enough to really fight back.
It's a critical intersection.
It really is. We've pulled together a pretty comprehensive stack of sources for you today.
Okay.
This includes some really deep, granular, regional climate assessments. We're talking projections tied to specific global warming levels.
So really specific forecasts.
Exactly. We're putting those right next to reports from the cutting edge of 2025.
Right.
You know, synthetic biology, AI diagnostics, material science, all of it.
So the goal here isn't just to list facts, it's to synthesize everything.
Right.
To give you a clear, concise understanding of just how severe the challenge is, and then match that with the revolutionary tools science is deploying.
And we have to start with the challenge, because the sources are, well, they're unequivocal.
We are long past the era of talking about abstract future threats. This is happening now.
Exactly. The sources confirm that human-caused warming, and we're already at about 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but...
But it's already caused unprecedented and, in some cases, permanent changes to Earth's systems. The future risks, they don't just increase linearly, they escalate dramatically with every single incremental half degree of warming.
So let's make that abstract warming real. I think the most fascinating thing here is how science is now using these global warming levels, or GWLs, to turn that global number into tangible, localized projections.
Yeah, this is the key.
This is the difference between planning for a 1.5 degree world versus failing our way into a 3.0 degree world. And that difference is, well, it's catastrophic.
Let's look at water resources. It's a great way to illustrate this global challenge through a regional lens using some data projected for Washington State. The entire Pacific Northwest, its ecology, its economy, it all relies on that mountain snowpack. It's basically a natural water tower.
Right, that's the snow water equivalent, or SWE, that they measure around April 1st. It's what keeps everything going through those dry summer months. And the numbers in the reports they're just frightening.
They are. The projected median decrease for that SWE is 21%.
21%. And that's if we only hit 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming.
That's our best case scenario, really. Now, if we fail to mitigate and we hit 3.0 degrees Celsius, which is absolutely within the realm of possibility on our current path, that median decrease jumps to a crippling 50%.
50.
Half.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that kind of disruption. I mean, what does losing half of your natural summer water storage even mean?
It means immediate, profound irrigation shortages for agriculture. It means massive economic losses for the winter recreation industry.
And it creates a cascading crisis, right, for energy, for the whole ecology.
Precisely. You can see those cascading effects quantified in the late summer streamflow data.
Which is crucial for hydropower.
Crucial for hydropower and, maybe most iconically for the fish, the salmon runs.
Yeah.
Streamflow is projected to see a median decrease of 15% at 1.5 degrees.
Okay, still bad.
But a crushing 39% decrease at 3.0 degrees.
Wow.
That level of a drop-off just fundamentally alters crucial salmon habitats. You're talking about a massive ecological and cultural loss.
And it's not just about losing the cold water, right? We're also talking about the opposite extreme. We're talking about heat.
So much heat. The sources project that the number of extreme hot days, days that actively threaten human health, is expected to effectively double at that 1.5 degree GWL.
Double. And at 3.0...
it skyrockets sevenfold. A 700% increase.
That's almost unimaginable.
And if you look at the raw temperature shift, that 3.0 degree warming level is projected to increase the Washington State average late summer maximum temperature by nearly 7 degrees Fahrenheit.
So you're moving the entire region into a dramatically different climate regime.
A completely different one. And while the heat gets worse, so does the water's destructive power, just in shorter bursts.
More intense storms.
Exactly. We're projecting significant increases in these heavy precipitation events. For instance, the magnitude of a 2-year precipitation event, which is a severe storm with a 50% chance of happening in any given year, is projected to increase by a median of 20% at the 4 degree GWL.
Which means future severe flooding is going to be more frequent and much more intense.
And that puts enormous stress on our aging infrastructure. Bridges, roads, water treatment plants, they're all interdependent. The cost just escalates exponentially.
And we also have to touch on the oceans, the immediate impact on ocean chemistry.
Ocean acidification. It's a direct consequence of the ocean absorbing all this excess atmospheric carbon.
Right.
The sources show the historical global average ocean pH was about 8.07, but it's projected to drop substantially, down to 7.78 at that 4-degree GWL.
And we have to remember the pH scale is logarithmic, so that small number change is actually a massive chemical shift.
It's huge, and it profoundly impacts organisms like oysters and mussels, the foundation of major coastal economies. It literally makes it harder for them to form their shells.
So if the environmental impacts aren't enough, the sources are crystal clear on the social implications. Climate change is a threat multiplier.
Absolutely. It actively amplifies existing health inequities. The sources single out what they call frontline communities.
Low-income urban communities of color, rural or tribal communities.
Right. Particularly in the Pacific Northwest case study, they are disproportionately exposed to these hazards: the extreme heat, the flooding, the chronic wildfire smoke.
So the lesson here is that you can't just build a taller seawall. Resilience efforts have to prioritize climate justice and redirect resources to these most vulnerable communities.
It's the only way to advance the resilience of the entire region. That's the critical takeaway from this first part.
Yeah.
The problem is quantified, it's localized, and it is immediate.
Wow. Okay. So we've established the climate impact is measurable, it's pervasive, and it's happening right now. Given the gravity of those numbers, I mean, losing half your snowpack, a 7-fold increase in heat, how are policies even beginning to grapple with this?
Well, that just sets the stage for the enormous policy challenge. The sources lay out the mitigation mandate very clearly.
Okay.
Successful mitigation requires reaching net zero global emissions. And for its part, the U.S. needs to have its net greenhouse gas emissions decline by more than 6% per year.
On average.
On average between now and 2050.
6% reduction year after year for decades. That requires just continuous transformative change across every sector: energy, transport, agriculture.
It's an almost unheard of pace for policy and technology adoption.
And the sources show just how hard this is in practice, right? Using regional policy as a case study.
Yeah, Washington State, for example, has one of the most aggressive legislative targets in the country. They're aiming for 95% below 1990 emissions levels by 2050.
95%.
Which means getting down to just 5 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent. Plus, they have to achieve net zero status using atmospheric carbon dioxide removal.
That sounds great on paper, but when you look at the reality from the sources, the ambition it bumps hard against the current results.
It really does.
Yeah.
The source material points out that as recently as 2021, Washington's actual emissions were 96.1 million metric tons of CO2e.
Which one?
Actually 2.3% above their 1990 baseline.
Above, so they haven't even started reversing emissions yet.
Not yet. They face this massive hurdle just to hit their 2030 goal, which is 45% below 1990 levels. That gap between the legal mandate and where they are now, it reflects a global policy challenge.
It really illustrates that deep mitigation isn't just a technical problem. It's politically and economically agonizing to implement at the speed we need. So if mitigation is struggling, what about adaptation? Is that enough to save us from a 3-degree world?
The clear consensus is no. Adaptation is happening, which is good.
Yeah.
But it remained vastly insufficient compared to the pace of climate change.
So it has to be transformative, not just incremental adjustments.
Exactly. And beyond that, the sources emphasize that the financing for these necessary adaptation projects, especially in vulnerable communities, it's incredibly difficult to track, and it's likely way, way inadequate.
So deep mitigation is hard, adaptation is essential, but not enough. That brings us to the mandatory third element for all successful climate pathways: carbon dioxide removal, or CDR.
Yeah, CDR is non-negotiable for all the scenarios that limit warming to 1.5 degrees and get us to net zero.
Why?
Because we have to actively draw down the carbon that's already been emitted. It's not enough to just prevent new emissions.
Okay, this is where we have to be really precise with the language. What is the critical distinction between CDR and standard carbon capture?
It's so crucial. Carbon capture technology that prevents carbon from going into the atmosphere in the first place. You scrub the exhaust from a power plant.
Right?
CDR, on the other hand, is the process of removing carbon that is already in the atmosphere, drawing it down with everything from planting forests to giant engineered chemical filters.
And what makes a CDR method successful? Is planting a tree as good as, say, storing carbon deep underground?
Not necessarily. Success really comes down to the permanence of the carbon removal.
Permanence.
Yeah. Carbon that's sequestered in a chemical form or in deep geologic storage that's considered far more stable than biological storage, like a forest.
Which is vulnerable to things like wildfires.
Exactly. A wildfire can release all that stored carbon right back into the atmosphere. The policy landscape has to be able to tell these methods apart to achieve true, lasting net zero.
Okay, that provides a really sobering context for the challenge. We are running hard against these quantified warming projections, facing huge policy gaps, and we're relying heavily on a technology, CDR, that needs immense scale and guaranteed permanence.
The race against the clock.
Okay, so let's pivot. Let's talk about the technological counterpunch. While policy is struggling with these massive numbers, the worlds of AI and biotech in 2025 are seeing a revolution. It's offering these incredibly precise, targeted tools.
Yeah.
Let's start with AI rewriting healthcare diagnostics. What happens when an algorithm is just consistently better at spotting disease than a human clinician?
And that tipping point is here. The sources say that across pattern recognition specialties, radiology, pathology, dermatology, these algorithms are now demonstrating superior performance.
And that's because they can integrate these massive data sets, right? The imaging, genetics, patient history.
Exactly. They see subtle patterns across millions of previous cases, and they see them instantaneously.
Let's talk specifics. We have this landmark study from early 2025 comparing an AI system called Deep Red to board-certified human radiologist for early-stage lung cancer detection.
And the results are astounding. They truly are. The AI showed 94% sensitivity.
Meaning it correctly identified cancer 94% of the time.
Right. The human radiologists, they achieved 71% sensitivity.
That is a 23 percentage point gap. That's enormous.
It is. But here's the kicker. The AI identified the malignancies, an average of 8.3 months earlier than standard screening would typically find them.
Nearly a year earlier. That changes everything for a patient. But I have to ask, how does the medical profession cope with that, being told an algorithm is that much better than your human judgment?
The sources acknowledge that turbulence, for sure. But they also point out that the legal and ethical frameworks are evolving, and fast, to manage it. This is why the FDA established a new pathway in January 2025.
What's it called?
The Adaptive Machine Learning-Based Software as a Medical Device Pathway, or AML-CMD.
AML-CMD. Why is that so significant?
Because it fundamentally changes how medical devices get approved. Traditionally, software was static, right? You approve version 1.0. But AI is continuously learning.
Oh.
The AML-CMD framework is designed to manage these continuously learning systems. It sets up guardrails for acceptable changes without needing a whole new lengthy approval process for every little tweak.
So the regulation is adapting to the speed of the technology.
Has to. And beyond diagnostics, AI is also transforming drug development. The old pipeline took, over a decade and billions of dollars?
The AI pharmacist is what the source calls it.
Right. It's compressing that timeline dramatically. AI models can simulate millions of interactions, predicting efficacy, toxicity, side effects. It does it in weeks, not years.
And we're seeing this translate into these hyper-personalized treatments, specifically with the microbiome.
This is a major area of advancement. Before, we just used broad-spectrum antibiotics. It killed everything. Now we have tools that allow for deliberate surgical modification of the gut microbiome.
We saw that with the FDA approval of SER 301.
Yeah, which is a cocktail of 18 specific bacterial strains to treat ulcerative colitis.
So instead of just a broad approach, they are precisely engineering which strains go in or which get taken out.
Exactly. Researchers are even using engineered bacteriophages, which are viruses that only infect bacteria to selectively target and remove specific problem strains without messing up the whole beneficial community. It's like personalized microbial surgery.
Okay, so now we get to synthetic biology, which it goes beyond modification into actual cellular programming, using what scientists call gene circuits. This sounds like true biological engineering.
You think of it less like fixing a broken engine and more like installing a smart thermostat inside a cell.
Okay.
These synthetic gene circuits use the cell's own internal signaling pathways as logic gates, just like in computer code. AD gates or OR gates, negative feedback loops.
So how does that look in an application?
Well, take cancer therapy. A traditional therapy might target one antigen, but that can lead to off-target effects on healthy tissue.
Right.
Using AD gate logic, the therapeutic protein is only produced and released when multiple antigen signals are present at the same time. This just vastly increases the specificity.
And for something like diabetes, a homeostatic disease.
That's where the negative feedback systems are brilliant. For diabetes, you can engineer cells to produce insulin in response to high blood glucose. But the negative feedback loop autonomously shuts that release down when blood sugar starts to drop.
So it prevents the dangerous overexposure you can get with manual insulin injections?
Exactly. It achieves that continuous, tight balance that's so difficult to maintain.
So we've seen AI and biotech revolutionize health. But what about the fundamental materials we need for the climate fight? New catalysts for CDR, better materials for batteries, for solar?
The AI Materials Lab. This is critical because the climate crisis demands scalable, durable, highly efficient new materials.
And the sources say material science hasn't had its AlphaFold moment yet, right? That single massive breakthrough.
Well, not yet. But AI and machine learning are proving essential in speeding up that incremental discovery process.
How?
Through what they call autonomous systems, AI-guided robotic labs. They're highly reproducible, highly accurate, and they basically replace the slow, iterative process of human chemists.
And they've had success.
Oh, yeah. The sources detail successes in automated synthesis of complex materials, like oxygen-producing catalysts, and even inverse design of chiral films.
Meaning the AI figures out the properties you want and then designs the molecule to achieve it.
Exactly. But the sources also highlight a major hurdle for AI in material science. It's a very different problem than it faces with medical data.
What's the problem?
It's data scarcity. Material science is not yet big data. Experiments are expensive, they're hard to replicate, and the data often lives in proprietary labs or is just poorly documented.
So for the AI to be truly effective, the whole community needs to agree on standards for sharing data.
Desperately. They need to adopt something like the FAIR data philosophy, making data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Without huge, high-quality data sets, the AI algorithms can only do so much.
Okay, so let's zoom back out for the synthesis. We have a climate crisis that is quantified down to the percentage point. A decrease in streamflow and increased likelihood of heat deaths for frontline communities. And to meet that challenge, science is offering these incredibly precise tools. AI for diagnostics and materials, gene circuits for personalized medicine.
The technologies are really matching the complexity of the problems. The environmental and health challenges are highly detailed, and the technological counterpunch is becoming just as precise.
We need AI to design permanent CDR materials. We need synthetic biology to engineer drought-resistant crops.
Or to autonomously treat diseases that are exacerbated by climate change.
But the policy and the ethical frameworks, they're still playing catch-up. Policy is struggling to hit that 6% annual mitigation goal, and the integration of these autonomous systems just raises massive questions about risk.
Absolutely. The sources remind us that we still face these profound questions. About reliability when an AI diagnosis is faster than a human's.
Yeah.
About how to maintain critical human judgment in a world where algorithms are designed to operate autonomously.
Whether they're regulating insulin or optimizing where to put a CDR facility.
Right.
And this leaves us with a truly provocative thought to close on, one that ties the crisis and the solution together.
Yeah.
If the solutions to our largest global crises, from climate action requiring these massive long-term interventions like CDR, to medical breakthroughs offering highly personalized, life-changing therapies, if all of that requires continuously learning systems and direct modifications to both human and planetary systems, how do we ensure that equity, autonomy, and critical human judgment remain at the center, when the very algorithms we're using become faster and potentially more accurate than human input?
That tension between the speed and scale we need and the ethical governance we must have, that's going to be the defining challenge of the next decade. It demands our continuous critical thought to ensure we aren't simply outsourcing our judgment, but augmenting our capacity to solve problems responsibly.